So today I've got a crazy Star Wars update for you. This is a follow-up to my last video where we spoke about Kathleen Kennedy stepping down as Lucasfilm president, and now Star Wars is entering a new era with Dave Filoni and Lynwen Brennan. Now originally this video was going to be slightly different, but it turns out some of what's being said by Kathleen Kennedy and others might not be entirely true. For instance, she mentions the reason Rian Johnson's trilogy never came about, and since, Rian has taken to social media to debunk this. But there's a lot to break down, so no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight in. So we're going to begin with the exit interview by Kathleen Kennedy with Deadline.com. And as we know, she spilled the beans on the future of Star Wars movies, but she was also asked a very important question. Does she have any regrets? As president of one of the biggest studios in Hollywood for 14 years, does she have any regrets? I mean, she could have just said something generic. She could have come out and said, I have no regrets, every project was a blessing. But no, Kathy actually gave a substantial response. She actually named a project, Solo: A Star Wars Story. I thought it was a pretty awesome movie, but it's no secret Kathy didn't like it. It was a box office disaster, mostly due to fan apathy following episode 8, but this is not something Kathy likes to admit. She's come up with every single reason in the book for why she thinks Solo failed. And time and again, it comes back to Alden Ehrenreich, an incredible actor who did a great job with huge shoes to fill. And how many times do we need to repeat this? We get it. Alden is not Harrison Ford. But you know what? Alden was fine. He embodied young Han Solo pretty well, and it was a fun flick. But every time Kathy's asked about this, she blames the recast as the reason Solo failed. And it's just like the situation with Rian Johnson, which we will come on to in just a minute. Sometimes Lucasfilm is so out of touch with the Star Wars fandom. They're always taking away the wrong lessons. And now Kathy says this. She talks about how initially they were so excited about Solo. She brought in Lawrence Kasdan, but then she realized that fundamentally and conceptually, she says, you cannot replace Han Solo, at least at the moment. And reading between the lines, I want to share with you a bit of a conspiracy theory on the Solo front. Because Kathy just can't let this go. Because she is so obsessed about the mistake she perceives recasting to be, this is what influenced the method of bringing Luke back. Because they could have just recast. I mean, even people like Graham Hamilton were perfect without the deepfake. But I reckon, because of the Alden situation, Kathy insisted no recasts. Same deal with the younger version of Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny flashbacks. But Kathy just can't let it go, and she goes on to say this. As wonderful as Alden Ehrenreich is, and he really was good, and is a wonderful actor, we put him in an impossible situation. And once you're in it, and once you're committed, you've got to carry on. So she is being nice about the situation, isn't she? Well, it's about to get cold. She says this, I think I have a bit of regret about that. I just think that conceptually we did it too soon. Now, just take a minute to consider what's really being said. Imagine you're Alden. Imagine you're Alden reading this when it came out. You find out Kathleen Kennedy, someone you met, someone you worked with, is stepping down as Lucasfilm president. You're reading through the interviews and you're hearing what's being said. You know he's had some awesome projects in recent years. Oppenheimer, Weapons, Fair Play. But a franchise he's expressed he wants to return to the most is Star Wars. So imagine you're Alden, you're reading this, and then you find out the only regrets Kathleen Kennedy has had in 14 years is you. That's so insulting. Alden is great, and I hope Dave Filoni takes a different view and brings him back. Like I said, there were rumours that Luke, Han and Leia might appear in the Mando crossover movie, the one which seems to be on the back burner, but I'm not too convinced about that report. Let's be honest, with Dave as co-president, it's still gonna happen. So, from Han Solo to Rian Johnson, we know his trilogy is cancelled, but Kathleen Kennedy has finally shed some light on the situation. The reason it never happened was because of the backlash to episode 8. But there's more to it. Kathy says this, I think Rian made one of the best Star Wars movies. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and he got spooked. This is the rough part. When people come into this space, every filmmaker and actor says to me, what's gonna happen? They're a little scared. And in Rian's case, he got spooked. The backlash to The Last Jedi freaked him out. But here's the thing, my friends. Rian now denies this. He took to social media to respond, and he's debunked what Kathy said. And maybe she isn't lying, as per se. Maybe that's just the impression that she got. But let's be honest, when it comes to The Last Jedi, Rian has been very vocal online, always memeing, rage baiting, responding to fans, and to me, that doesn't read as spooked. But it was a very rough and divisive time for the Star Wars fandom. But for years, the narrative was the same. When Rian Johnson has time when he's done with Knives Out, he will return to the Star Wars universe. And on a couple of occasions, Kathy herself did say, Rian will return when he's ready. He probably figured if the way the fandom responded to The Last Jedi was bad, it was going to be worse for his own separate trilogy. The irony of the situation, I think a separate Rian Johnson trilogy that is not saga related could have been pretty good. He's a great filmmaker with some cool ideas, but let's be honest, this was never going to happen. Some people argue Star Wars never recovered from Episode 8, and I'm sure Disney knows this, and they themselves would probably veto it. So, this one is done. I think this trilogy is dead, never gonna happen, and now we know part of the reason why. In other major reveals, my friends, something which came up in June of 2025, something that was controversial at the time, but might actually be true. And I say might, because since this came out, other sources have denied it. All of them anonymous, all of them from Lucasfilm, and you have one side, those who reported to The Wrap, saying it's true, and others who've since denied it. What's the truth? I'll let you decide. So what's the update? Dave Filoni was not a fan of Tony Gilroy's Andor. And when this first came out, it sounded fake. It sounded like a manufactured war between creatives, between Tony and Dave. And because a couple of years ago there was a huge debate, which one is better, Ahsoka or Andor, this rumour certainly didn't help. But now, as Dave Filoni is about to step up as co-president, The Wrap has heard the rumour is true. It's well known within the walls of Lucasfilm that Dave doesn't like Andor very much. And even though another Lucasfilm spokesperson has since denied it, the author of the original piece stands by their word. It's a he said, she said situation. My take, I can definitely see it being true, but I also think the truth is more nuanced. He seems like the kind of guy who would say he appreciates what it did, but it wasn't for him.
Andor, it's so well done, and Tony and his team do such a phenomenal job that I think that there's an audience for that.
There were rumors floating around last spring that he was jealous of the acclaim Andor was getting, and that he wasn't a fan of this flavor of Star Wars. Now, to be fair, I kind of gave both sides of the argument. I'm an Andor fan, but I understand why some people don't like it. That being said, it did come as a bit of a surprise. Dave Filoni seems like he's up for most types of Star Wars content, but the mature themes, the brutality, the lack of mysticism and the Force must have been a step too far. Lucasfilm should continue to take risks. It's not always gonna land, but once in a blue moon, you do get something on the level of Andor, Skeleton Crew, and The Mandalorian. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts on all of today's reveals in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, my friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.